I think there's a lot of enthusiasm. I don't think there's concern. I think people that I am working with and companies that we're investing in and at Ariel are all in on this issue. I think we have to ignore the rhetoric. You know, get away from the rhetoric and look at what is actually happening on the ground. And I think that tells two very different stories. You know, the example that I gave to you just offline, where I said, you know, there was this feedback around the world immediately when the U.S. dropped out of the Paris Accord, and there was a tremendous amount of rhetoric around it. But it was interesting. I talked to one of the leading auto executives in the world, and he said to me, let's be clear about something. We're all in on this issue. Policy doesn't change what we're already doing and will be doing. And he gave such a great example. He said, you know, if you want to sell cars in the United States, you have to sell cars in California because it's the biggest market in the United States. And if you want to sell cars in the United States, in California, you have to hit California's emission standards. And they're the most stringent emission standards in the United States, which means you are going to comply with California, which is better for the United States and better for the world. And I thought that was a really simple, you know, despite what you're hearing lobbed back and forth and some of this rhetoric, what is actually happening on the ground becomes the story. And again, for me, what I see with companies that we're invested in, boardrooms that I sit in, et cetera, is a real commitment.
And in that commitment, and as you come and visit here, do you think people get Asia? Do you think there's a good understanding in the U.S. of how Asia's developing?
Well, we're watching something develop in real time, and I think it would be very wrong of us to be that presumptuous. I think that humility is really important, and going in and saying you get something, I think can be self-defeating. You know, so I would say I think people are trying really hard to understand the culture and the ways of doing business, et cetera, and I think that's super important. But I'm not with anyone who says, I got this. You know, I don't see it that way at all. And I don't think that's a negative. I actually think, you know, there's this quote from Ray Kroc, who started McDonald's, and he said, as long as you are green, you grow. And when you're ripe, you rot. And I thought a lot about that quote. So being green about some of these things allows you to continue to grow.